Silvergate, SVB, and now Credit Suisse apparently is in trouble. What's going on over there? Welcome back, everyone. We are diving into the latest dumpster fire, which apparently is Credit Suisse. Now, Credit Suisse actually has a pretty terrible track record, which we're going to dive into a little bit later. But of course, right, it just seems also convenient. We have these major banks failing. All of a sudden, oh, Credit Suisse is having a problem. What's going on? Everyone's got to scramble to help Credit Suisse. Okay, Credit Suisse shares tank after Saudi backer rules out further assistance. Several Italian bankers on Wednesday were also subject to automatic trading stoppages, including Unicredit, FinecoBank, and Monte dei Paschi. Credit Suisse's largest investor, Saudi National Bank, said it couldn't provide the Swiss bank with any further financial assistance, according to a Reuters report, sparking the latest leg lower. We cannot because we would go above 10%. It's a regulatory issue, Saudi National Bank Chairman Ammar al-Quderi told Reuters on Wednesday. However, he added that SNB is happy with Credit Suisse's transformation plan and suggested the bank was unlikely to need extra money. Okay, so it's according to this, it's a regulatory issue. That's why they can't provide more funds to the bank. Of course, that doesn't fix the issue of why does this bank need more money to begin with? What, like obviously they made some terrible decisions and they're in trouble. So anyways, meanwhile, speaking to CNBC's Hadley Gamble during a panel session in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia on Wednesday morning, Credit Suisse chairman Axel Lehmann declined to comment on whether his firm would need any sort of government assistance in the future. When asked if he would rule out some kind of assistance, Lehmann answered, "That's not the topic. We are regulated. We have strong capital ratios, very strong balance sheet. We are all hands on deck. So that's not the topic whatsoever." If you have a strong balance sheet and you have strong capital ratios, then you don't need to be all hands on deck. So anybody in the corporate world can tell you when you have an all hands on deck scenario, it's not because things are going great. Okay, you don't say, all right, all hands on deck, everything's just going wonderful. No, it's all hands on deck because things are not going great. So it's just kind of, anyways, interesting wordplay there. Of course, that's my own opinion, maybe that's not what he meant, but I just find that very strange to say, yeah, we're doing great, but, we're all hands on deck. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at Credit Suisse's history, because you see, in the current framing, it looks like Credit Suisse is kind of a victim of what's going on right now. But Credit Suisse has kind of been a shitty institution for a really long time. Anyways, let's dive into some of the examples here. Cocaine-related money laundering. In June, the bank was convicted of failing to prevent money laundering by a Bulgarian cocaine trafficking gang. Bermuda trial. A Bermuda court ruled in March that former Georgian Prime Minister Bidzina Ivanishvili and his family are due damages of more than $500 million from Credit Suisse's local life insurance arm. Ivanishvili and his, I'm just destroying his last name, I'll do my best, and his family were due the damages as a result of long-running fraud committed by a former Credit Suisse advisor, Pascal Lescadron. Lescadron was convicted by a Swiss court in 2018 of having forged the signatures of former clients, including Ivanishvili, over an 8-year period. Suisse secrets. Dozens of media outlets in February published results of coordinated Panama Papers-style investigations into a leak of data on thousands of customer accounts in previous decades. The allegations in the Suisse secrets media articles include that the bank had human rights abusers and businessmen under sanctions among its clients. Tuna bond fraud. Credit Suisse pleaded guilty to defrauding investors over an $850 million loan to Mozambique meant to pay for a tuna fishing fleet, and is paying U.S. and British regulators $470 million to settle the case under a deal announced in October. About $200 million of the loan went in kickbacks to Credit Suisse bankers and Mozambican government officials. The bank was aware of a huge shortfall between the funds raised and the value of boats bought, but failed to disclose this to investors when the loan was restructured in 2016. The Archipelagos default. Credit Suisse lost $5.5 billion when U.S. family office Archipelagos Capital Management defaulted in March 2021. An independent report into the incident criticized the bank's conduct, saying its losses were the result of a fundamental failure of management and control at its investment bank and its prime mortgage division in particular. They don't have a really good track record, Credit Suisse. Anyways, Greensill funds collapse. Credit Suisse was forced to freeze $10 billion of supply chain finance funds in March 2021 when British financier Greensill Capital collapsed after losing insurance cover for debt issued against its loans to companies. The Swiss bank had sold billions of dollars of Greensill's debt to investors, assuring them in marketing material that the high-yield notes were low risk because the underlying credit exposure was fully insured. A spying scandal. Credit Suisse chief executive Tidjane Thiam was forced to quit in March 2020 after an investigation found the bank hired private detectives to spy on its former head of wealth management, Ibkal Khan, after he left for arch rival UBS. Credit Suisse repeatedly played down the episode as an isolated incident. It's kind of funny that, you see, when a bank does something like that, it's, hey, listen, this is a pay-to-play arena. Okay, and they are absolutely, you can see from the track record, they are paying to play. So for them, it's an isolated incident, right? For a like a regular peon, person, that would be a completely different story. But because it's a bank, it's yeah, well, look, it's just an isolated incident. It's perfectly fine. But look, guys, the real takeaway from this is this, okay? Credit Suisse is not a victim of anything that's happening recently. Okay, Credit Suisse is an institution that has been falling apart for years. And what's happening right now, in my opinion, is that an opportunity is being seized upon in order to consolidate the banks. A lot of the rumors that I'm hearing is, oh yeah, they're doing this because they're preparing for a CBDC. That may be true. Banks are pretty much completely irrelevant in a CBDC reality because the Fed can just issue the funds directly to the people. So you really don't need a middle institution to provide any of that, to provide that channel. So that could be one angle of this, is that it's an attack on the banks. Regardless of what any of the narratives are right now, because we're hearing different things from all different sides. And all I could say is this: when we see news of these institutions breaking down, I always find it very interesting to go back and take a look at some of their history, because it'll paint a much broader picture of what's really happening. And, because a lot of times people sit there and think, oh, it's just, you're just being a conspiracy theorist because this just fits in. No, I think unfortunately what's happened is that what I said earlier, opportunities are being seized upon because, look, this institution was already absolute garbage. Okay, it's already 10% of it is owned by the Saudis. Not that that's a problem or anything like that, but the point is that they constantly need money. Like right now, they obviously needed money, and there's a reason why this statement came out. Now, granted, that statement could have come out on purpose in order to create the narrative that this bank is in worse trouble than it is. Maybe its restructuring is going perfectly fine, and maybe it is able to handle its finances right now. But this piece of news came out, which created the public perception that something is wrong. Anyways, look, I personally, obviously, I'm not in the know or anything like that. I'm just taking a look at all these pieces of news and I'm putting them together. And to me, I just see a convenient narrative.